They trusted that those born in Aaron's line were born by the act of God and for the purpose of God and for the good of God's people. I don't want to go too far off track, but do we trust God that much? Right? Do we trust that the hearts of kings really are like water in the hands of God? Or since we no longer have a monarchy, we have a form of a democracy, is it now in our hands? It used to be in God's hands, but now that we get to vote, it's suddenly in our hands. Or do we trust that God continues to be sovereign? Do we trust that God continues to raise up and remove? That God continues to have His way, even when we seem to constantly fight for our way? But let's take this and look past priests and leaders. Let's look inward. Do we trust not only that God formed us in our mother's womb, but that He formed us as we were meant to be formed? Do we trust that He made us as we are intended to be? Because that's a lot to trust. It means that we were born where God intended. We were born to whom God intended. We were born when God intended. It even means that God was present in all the circumstances, even if those circumstances were really messed up. That's a lot to trust. As we've been learning, trust isn't simple. Quote unquote, God made me sounds great, but what if I'm not what I wanted to be? What if I'm not in a family that treated me as I deserve to be treated? What if I'm not in a place where I feel like I belong or I fit in? What if I don't even feel like I belong in my own skin? That's when trust actually becomes trust, right? It's easy to trust when it's all the way I wanted it to be. It's easy to trust when you're acting the way I wanted you to act, when I'm getting what I wanted to get, when my body is strong, my bank account is full, my relationships are happy, then I trust God fully because I've got everything I wanted. But trust doesn't even begin until it's not what I wanted it to be. And so it is very easy for us to look and say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, but what if you don't like what you are? Don't like where you are, don't like where you've been, don't like who's around you. That's when trust becomes trust. That's when believing that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made starts taking effort, not just songs and shouts, but I've got to actually start singing it to myself. I've got to start talking about it to myself. I've got to actually start finding ways to work it and to believe it, because singing it isn't going to change how I feel, but believing it will give me the courage to keep going. Because that's what we're really talking about in trust. It's not getting it changed. It's enduring through it, believing that God is in it. God is good. I can trust Him, even though this is not at all what I think it should be.